nobody else can give you that validation, love, or support other than yourself. And when you let that go, you can start to feel worthy, whole, and complete just for being you. Then you can start being your most authentic self. Even if people don't like you, you're okay with that because polarizing isn't bad. This episode was a very fun episode, but also a very vulnerable episode where I open up and share some things I've never really shared before, in the hopes that you're able to kind of look at your own shadow in certain ways and really be vulnerable with yourself. I think one of the reasons I goal myself and I try to be as vulnerable as I can is so that you can also be vulnerable with yourself. And that's something that I definitely did. I opened up in this episode a lot and share with you the main takeaways I've had from 2020, the main shadow work that I've done, my own childhood wounds, the different things that I've healed and gone through, and how I'm so transformed. I feel like literally a different person than I did before. But in this episode, I'm going to share with you what those are. Before we get into it, I want to show some love to our sponsor, which is Organifi. Many of you know this is one of my favorite things to do. This is how I have high vibrational energy. This is what I do to stay in high vibe. I do not drink caffeine. I do not drink coffee. But what I do is I use Organifi green juice and Organifi red juice. These are both my favorite. Let me explain to you a little bit about Organifi. It's a blend using science to back up the most effective doses of ingredients that are organic and free of fillers and contain less than 3 grams of sugar per serving. Oh my gosh. You guys know 3 grams of sugar is not that much. And a lot of this stuff you guys see Naked juice at the store, Naked or whatever it's called, like 20-something grams of sugar. That's crazy. Sugar is acidic, not good for the body. So Organifi green juice is essential superfoods with a clinical dose of what's called ashwagandha. Ashwagandha. Sounds like something from Black Panther. I forget the name of what that stuff, I forget. But anyways, ashwagandha helps with reduced stress. You feel healthy levels of cortisol goes down. Cortisol is a stress hormone. And it is very powerful. There's 11 superfoods for resetting the body to feeling amazing. Can you guys feel how amazing? You can feel my voice right now, how much energy I have? Guess why? Organifi green juice. It takes just 30 seconds. No shopping, chopping, juicing, or blending. 30 seconds. All you do is get the powder, you put it in with a little bit of something, you mix it up, and you drink it. 600 milligrams of clinically proven ashwagandha, which is an adaptogen. It adapts and stuff. 100% organic, USDA certified organic. It decreases cortisol, and it helps reduce that stress. It promotes a healthy response to stress, and it tastes delicious in just plain water. You don't need juice or anything else. No need for even a blender. It encourages the feeling of healthiness and productivity at work with your loved ones. You don't need caffeine. You're going to feel high vibe as AF. And it is just amazing. It's less than $3 a day. I highly, highly recommend the green juice. Would use it every single day. Go check it out. All you do is right now, you can get 15% off. All you do is you go to Organifi.com/Aaron15. That's Organifi.com/Aaron15. Use code Aaron15 at checkout, and guess what? You're going to get 15% off. You can also try the Organifi protein, which I use every single day as well. It's delicious. I mix it to make protein ice cream. I do a lot with it. The chocolate's my favorite, but there's also vanilla for those of you that like vanilla. But be honest, most of you guys like chocolate like me. And there's other stuff as well. But anyways, go to Organifi.com/Aaron15. Check it out. Those are the top products that I use. It's high vibrational supplements. It's less than $3 a day. It's worth your health. Get rid of caffeine. Get rid of coffee. That's just my personal preference. There's no crash, and you'll feel amazing. So Organifi.com/Aaron. Anyways, let's get into the rest of this episode right meow. Today, I'll be sharing with you my top insights from doing shadow work pretty much all of 2020. Pretty much all of 2020. The main theme of this year for me has been doing a massive amount of shadow work. Now, what is shadow work? Shadow, and the shadow that each of us has, is the unconscious part of ourselves we're not aware of that is running different aspects of our life. And when we do shadow work, it is completely life transforming. And this year of my life has been the most transformative year of my life, hands down. I've done more shadow work this year than I've done in the prior years I've been alive. And in this episode, what I wanted to do is to share with you those top insights so that as you go through your own levels of shadow work, maybe this represents or this reflects something back to you, but also I think that moving into 2021 and beyond, it's going to be more and more of the unraveling of our own shadow. And whether that's masculine, feminine integration, healing from the childhood wounds that we may have, whether that's bringing unconscious things just into the light so that we can transmute them and integrate it. If you look at also the shadow of the collective consciousness, right now you'll see that shadow is coming up for all of us to see. I went to a family dinner recently, and it was funny because when I was there, even my grandma, who watches a shit ton of news, she watches a lot of news, she buys into it. Even her, she was talking about how she felt a lot of stuff happening in the world is orchestrated, which I thought wasn't like for her. My Nana be saying that. I'm like, what is going on here? Even she thinks, people think there's something going on. It's very obvious, even if they watch the news a lot. If it's almost like the more you watch the news, the more likely you are to kind of see through it, but you might still watch it. And I don't watch the news at all anymore, but the collective shadow is definitely being brought up, not to get too esoteric and weird, but I've done other videos on this before, but I knew someone in my life, is no longer here, but that worked for some type of government, behind the government operation that said that a lot of things is for someone I trust. And basically, there's a lot going on that we're not aware of. There are operations and underground facilities that deal with different experiments, and the government knows of ET existence and stuff like that. There's many whistleblowers that point to this information as well, but this is something that I knew somebody that did this for 20, 30 years, and they told me about what happened before they passed away. And it blew my mind. It opened me up and realized, wait, reality is not all of what we are being projected. And as more and more of this information comes out, whether it's about the Snowden stuff or other stuff, it's coming out of the shadows and into the light for us to become aware of. And it is powerful. And it's also, people are losing faith in the media. They're losing faith in understanding how the government, there's basically where I was going with what I was saying is at a collective level, there's different elite levels of organization with the intention of keeping people in certain states of consciousness, whether that is fear, whether that is in a reactive state, because when they are in fear or a reactive state, they're much easier to control. And when people are much easier to control, it's much easier to control what's happening in the world. And a lot of what could be happening right now is pointing at different forms of manipulation. Our emotions, the energies are have an intention of manipulation there. People can feel that. Even with this new election thing happening. It's still going on, by the way. As I record this right now, there's still stuff going on with that. They're still figuring things out. But what I think is obvious is that there's other things going on. Do I know exactly what it is? No. But this is an example of what is happening in the collective shadow. The collective shadow is bringing up, and this is the part of the planet we're moving into, that we've been moving into what's called the Kali Yuga. It's a new era, a time of consciousness on the planet. Call it the Age of Aquarius. We're becoming aware of these different shadow aspects of ourselves, and moving forward, it's going to continue to increase more and more. We have an old system that's not really working, and there are people on the planet that have dark intentions of keeping people in lower states of consciousness so that they can remain in control. And what they're doing right now is they are moving the last cards up their sleeve to try to retain that level of power and control. But I believe it is not going to actually work. I believe too many people are waking up. I believe it is actually backfiring on them. Because the more things they do, the more people are questioning things. Now, that's what's happening in the collective level. But remember, the collective level is a reflection of the internal level. Now, let me also say this. This is a larger aspect consciousness view of it, but I think it's important because sometimes when people start going down certain rabbit holes, they then get caught into this like, they're doing that to us and we have to fight. But what happens is that a lot of times, I believe, actually feeds the negative paradigm without us even knowing it. It's like we're almost feeding out of fear. Like, oh, can you believe that these negative agenda people could do this kind of thing? And then that feeds the actual paradigm itself. So the thing I want to point your awareness to is that where is the energy going? Because it may not actually be conducive if, when I was studying a lot of the stuff at the beginning of the year, when the stuff happened at the beginning of the year, I started looking into it. It became very obvious that there's other stuff going on. But I was very much aware that it started to drain my energy. So I started to take my attention away from it. And I started to put it more back on my purpose and what I'm meant to kind of do. And for me, that's helped people wake up to more of who they are. It's sharing this kind of information. So, but the larger consciousness aspect I want to put your attention on is that we are all eternal spiritual beings living temporary human experiences. And in this reality, we went through a process of forgetting who we were so that we can then remember who we are. And that made it very challenging. Many of you watching this video or listening to this on the podcast have been through a lot of pain growing up because that pain created pressure, and that pressure caused you then to wake up. Now, what's happening is the collective is going through a lot of pressure so that they can then wake up. It is a way of us evolving to a new level of consciousness. Eckhart Tolle's even talked about this in The New Earth. If we literally want to survive this era on the planet, we have to evolve to a new state of consciousness. Now, the thing I want to put your attention on, though, is that when it comes to these negative agendaed people, realize that even though they have negative agendas, they came here to play a part in this game of life. This really is like a form of game. We are eternal spiritual beings having temporary human experiences. And what they are doing is they are playing maybe the negative role, people who've forgotten who they are, but at the deepest level, they are a reflection of us. We are all connected. We're all one consciousness. They're playing a different role, and when we judge them, we hate them, we can say what they're doing is wrong. We can have that awareness, manipulating the people and getting people into fear so that they're much easier to control. That can be wrong, but the thing we have to be aware of is that they are also us. They're just playing the part. It kind of makes it a little bit lighter when we realize that. And that's the thing that I like to remember is that, they came here to play that part of the game. We came here to play the part of the game of the light workers. We're helping people become aware of who they are. We're light workers. The shadow side of the light worker, by the way, is that then we start to think we're really significant. I am the chosen one. I have come to enlighten humanity to wake up to a new level of consciousness. You see, that's the shadow of the ego, the shadow of the spiritual ego. When I first went through my spiritual awakening in 2012, I was like becoming aware of all this information, super excited and stoked to be sharing this with people. But then what happened is people didn't understand me. They didn't like that I was talking about like all this esoteric stuff, and I started meditating and I wasn't smoking weed or drinking anymore. And they're like, what's going on, Aaron? Why aren't you the same? And then I was like, don't you just meditate? Let's do these mantras. Om Shri. And I was doing all these mantras, and they're like, this is weird. Aaron's weird. And then what happened is I said, you know what? You guys just don't get it. You guys just aren't as evolved as me. You guys just sleep still. You sleepers. You guys are sleeping. Sleeper. That was kind of the mentality of trying to... And then family and friends didn't understand it. My mom got it, though. My mom was like, she jumped on board pretty quick. But everyone else didn't really get it. And I felt very alone. So my way of bypassing that was like, okay, all these sleeping sleepers don't get it. They're just asleep in the matrix. But then I realized, whoa, that's my spiritual ego trying to feel significant, trying to justify this aloneness. Realize being alone isn't bad. Lonely, you might want to, redefine that a little bit, but alone is not bad. I love being alone. I love it. I don't know. I get excited. It's funny because I could be an extrovert. I could do that for a while, but then I like to go and I like to do my own thing. It's okay. It's part of the process. But anyways, that is just like a kind of a side tangent note thingy that I wanted to share with y'all. But let's talk about some of the top transformational insights that I've had of 2020 that include my shadow. Okay. I want to open up and I want to share some of this with you. And I'll be honest, some of this is going to be kind of vulnerable. Maybe some of it's going to be stuff that I haven't really shared that much before. But nonetheless, let's just do it. I like being vulnerable like that and sharing things. So anyways, the first thing I want to talk about of 2020 was there's this gold play button right over there for having 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Oh my God, it was the coolest thing ever. And that's what my ego wanted. I visualized that thing for like 3 years. First, it was 100,000 on YouTube. Then it was more and more. And what I realized is that my ego craved significance. My ego craved that plaque because that plaque to me represented a level of worthiness that I didn't already feel inside of myself. And if I could just get that plaque with 1 million subscribers proving, and then I could share it on social media and people could see how cool it was, because then they'll see that gold plaque and they'll connect it in their mind and go, wow, Aaron has 1 million followers on YouTube. He must be really cool. He must be really worthy and valuable. And then I would feel that on the inside, and then everyone would like me because I didn't realize how much my inner sense of self-value and worth was dependent on how many people liked me. Why? Probably because childhood, I went through abuse between 7 to 16 years old. And in that time, I was working outside all the time, a lot of times locked out of the house, had to earn going to school activities, had to deal with the narcissist who was my ex-stepmom. By the way, let me make a clarification here. This is for you, Mom. I love you, Mom. I have a real mom that is freaking amazing. Some people get it confused and think that my real mom is my ex-stepmom, or they think that because I don't talk about my real mom a lot that I don't love her. I love my real mom to death. She's an amazing mom. Unfortunately, she wasn't allowed in my life between 7 to 16 years old because my brother Zach and I, we were brainwashed to not want to be around our real mom. It was very hard on my mom. My mom, she spent a lot of time going to therapists, trying to figure out how she could remain in contact with my brother and I, but every time she would try, it would be even more painful for us. So eventually she had to cut it off until my dad divorced my ex-stepmom when I was 16 years old. Then we reestablished a connection with our real mom. Our real mom is amazing. I lived with my real mom during my spiritual awakening, off and on after I was 18 years old. And my mom is a super cool mom as well. She was somebody that I was able to hang out with. And when I went through my spiritual awakening, she went through a spiritual awakening as well. She was one of the only people that really understood me when I was going through that as well. And one of the reasons that I didn't feel so alone. My mom has been through a lot. You know, she had a very hard childhood, and she's been through her own level of transformation. But I've always felt a very special connection to my real mom. I don't talk about her as much because I guess that the ex-stepmom overshadows the attention, because that's what, in a way, caused a lot of transformation, was the pain. But I just kind of wanted to shout out my mom and say that I love my mom to death, that she's an amazing mom. And I'm very grateful for her. She was there for my spiritual awakening. She's a very loving person that I'm so grateful for. So I just kind of wanted to clarify that as well. And I wanted her to know that she's appreciated. And I wanted to kind of share that in this content. And also, that's another shadow aspect of this year that I've been going through, is realizing how much what I share on YouTube and what I share online, how it affects people that I love. You know, I made a video where I was talking about my mom's own stuff that she went through growing up, because I was talking about like ancestral healing and stuff. And it was very personable stuff that my mom did not consent to me sharing, because it wasn't maybe my place, even though I could see how certain patterns in my life. Ancestral healing, by the way, is where you realize that you were in your mama. Your mama was in her mama. The trauma and the things that your mama's mama went through is passed on to your mama, and then the stuff that your mama went through is passed on to you, and healing that cycle. And what I became aware of was some very interesting things when it comes to ancestral work. I became aware that on my mom's side of the family, there were different energy dynamics, that my mom went through a very traumatic childhood. She's very strong. And then she went through that, and then I could see how certain patterns, in a way, were different themes I was working with. And same on my dad's side. My dad, traditional nice guy. I found out my dad's dad was a traditional nice guy. And then what I had to do is I had to break that freaking cycle. I had to lay down the whatever I don't know what you call it. But I had to become more firm, more assertive. I had to learn how to integrate that aspect of myself. Because, by the way, the nice guy, that's a shadow. That is a shadow. Here's I'm going to give you guys a little spiel on narcissists and people pleasers as well. I have this new spiel that I want to share with you guys. But before I do that, the nice guy is a shadow. The nice guy, or the people pleaser, says, hey, if I do this, then you will give me love, support, and validation. That's how the nice guy or the people pleaser thinks. So what the nice guy will do is the nice guy will be a certain way to not cause tension. See, nice guys are afraid of giving tension. They're afraid of going against the grain, and they want to be very agreeable. But it's a shadow. It says, I'm not good enough the way I am. I can't be assertive. I can't be my true self because if I am, you might reject me. And that was something that this year I had to completely shed. I had to shed the whole nice guy mentality. I could see how it leaked into many different areas of my life. I had an experience this year with what is called a narcissist. A narcissist is somebody that is very controlling, very manipulative. It's all about them, and they're only out for their own ego desires. And this is something that I had to deal with because this person was threatening me. And as this person was threatening me, I was realizing, and that snapped me out of this nice guy mentality. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I letting this happen? And then I laid down the law, and I was like, no, this isn't okay. And I was very firm, and that was very transformative for me. That was like a way of me kind of breaking through my own warrior's initiation. Basically, somebody was threatening me with against my channel because of something I used to talk about back in the day, and I did nothing wrong whatsoever, but they were using that as leverage to kind of get through to me. And I actually had 80 videos taken down on YouTube, and I had to like fight to get those 80 videos put back up, all because I was using a certain keyword. I'm not going into the specifics, but basically, that was a very eye-opening experience for me. And that helped me wake me up more to this understanding of people pleasers, narcissists, and the dynamic there. And that was a huge part of my own work, was me shedding the whole nice guy people pleaser mentality, but also realizing how much that was the ancestral stuff I kind of wanted to share. That was a huge epiphany, was that a lot of the energy dynamics we have going on were energy dynamics that were passed on from our parents and our parents' parents. Now, it doesn't mean blame the parents. They're doing the best they can with where they are, but being aware of it is very powerful. So I did different energy work with that, and it was so transformative. But the shadow aspect of this I want to share when it comes to significance, I think I also have a level of myself that tries to be very vulnerable with all of you, because the more vulnerable I am with you, the more maybe you'll accept me. Something I'm just now I'm kind of going through and realizing. I realize this too. I have a good friend of mine. Her name's Rebecca. Many of you know her. I'm in this house, and she's a girlfriend of Drew, and she's amazing. I'm very close with her. And I remember talking to her. We were talking about, we give each other feedback every now and then, different energy patterns we notice in the other that takes a little bit of courage to say, because sometimes people might not like what they hear. One thing she noticed about me, though, is my quickness to open up to other people is almost sometimes this thing that I do that I'm doing because then I'm hoping they'll open up with me. So it's my way of like craving depthness. And I think that when I made that episode where I talked about my mom and I talked about her childhood, which was not my place to do, it was my way of being vulnerable and opening up so that more people would like me, but at the expense of not knowing that my mom would see that episode and that it would very deeply emotionally hurt her. And I had to become aware of this. You know, another aspect of my shadow that I want to tell you guys is, you know, I had this personal trainer that I was dealing with that I had like last year. I have a new trainer now, but I had a different trainer last year. And this trainer was a great guy. My buddy Victor and I went to him, and we did a lot of CrossFit stuff. We learned a lot from him. But towards the end of it, there was this little stupid thing that happened that I wouldn't let go. We had like 10 sessions, and at about 9 or the 10th session, we still had one session left. And I knew we had one session left because in the text thread, it's like, oh, because we bought it in a package of like 10, right? So there was like 10 different sessions, and I was like, how many do we have left? And then I realized we still had one left because I checked the text messages, and that's what it said when I went back in the thread. But then I asked him, I said, hey, let's, in the text is like, hey, let's, you know, do our last session, and then we'll see about re-upping or whatever. And then he replied and was like, no, you guys' sessions are up, blah, blah, blah. And what happened is I got kind of angry at that. I was like, no, I know we have a session left. And I felt like he was like bypassing, and then I even mentioned it. I was like, you can look up the thread, you know what I mean? But he's like, no, just let me know. And I felt it was very cold, and I felt like it wasn't authentic. But what I did is I talked about it in a YouTube video. And when I talked about it in the YouTube video, I talked about like, hey, I was kind of angry about it. It's like, I didn't make a video about that. I was talking about maybe the shadow, or I was talking about authenticity of your word and what you say you're going to do. And if you agree on something, you stick to that. And it was like my way of like venting it out. But what I realized is this is back when I was a nice guy. I was afraid. I didn't say anything to him. So what I did is I made a video about it. Now, here's the thing I'm starting to realize. People watch my videos. And not only that, but people that I know in my life, they watch my videos sometimes, even though I think a lot of people don't. Basically what happened is I think he eventually saw that video, or somebody told him about that video, and then he like unfollowed me on Instagram, and I could tell he saw that video or he knew of that content or something. And what it reflected back to me, though, was my own inauthenticity. It reflected back to me that what I could have done is told him, hey, man, I don't think that's cool. We had one session left. You mentioned it last time. We love coming to you, but I don't think it's cool that now you're saying we don't have a session left. I could have said that, but I didn't. Instead, I was being passive about it, and I made a video about it, which then wasn't authentic. It was an authentic video, but it wasn't. I should have mentioned it to him and gone into the tension, but that was back when I was afraid of the rejection or whatever it is, and the side effect of that was then either hurting someone's feelings, but not being direct. I like being direct with people now, even if it's blunt, even if it hurts at first. At least it's authentic and real. So you see, and this happened with somebody else's too. There was somebody else, clairvoyant type person that we used to go to in here in Sedona. She's amazing. But what happened is this person started going kind of down certain rabbit holes. And when I was talking to some friends about this person. I was like, yeah, I'm kind of worried. Maybe they're going too far down this rabbit hole. And I can tell that maybe it's having a certain effect on their energy. And when I was talking about this person, I wasn't talking necessarily bad about them, because I normally don't talk bad, but which maybe is like a concern that I had. But basically, that information of me saying that we were worried about that person got back to that person. And then that person got very kind of resentful of that. And then I cut the connection between me and them. So now I no longer talk to that person. But once again, it was my shadow of not being direct with someone, saying, hey, I just want you to know that I really care about you, which I do. I still to this day care about that person. I really care about you. And I really, I just want to make sure that whatever you're studying, it's not having too much of a damper on your vibe, even though you're really passionate about it and into it. And this is just my concern. But if you're good and you say you're good, then you're good. You know, that would have been fine. But once again, I was passive. I was talking to other friends about it. And that was a big reflection of my own shadow. How am I not being authentic? How am I going behind people's back and talking about different things? And that was just a big reflection for me. Now my goal is to be very clear, very upfront with people, and to like not be afraid of going into the tension of just telling people how I think, how I feel. No beating around the bush. So for me, that's been a huge thing. Now, the thing I wanted to talk about, people pleasers and narcissists. So here's the thing, and here's the insight that I had about people pleasers and narcissists. In a way, first off, let me just say this. People pleasers and narcissists. A people pleaser is somebody that craves your validation, your love, and support. And therefore, a lot of times they will overexert themselves. They'll have a lack of boundaries. They'll do what they can to get you to be happy. Narcissists will take whatever they want from you, will manipulate you, will try to get and make it all about them. My ex-stepmom was a narcissist. Now, the interesting thing is that narcissists and people pleasers tend to attract each other. Now, why is that? Well, on one hand, it's like the other side of the magnet. This one's going to take what they can get. This one's going to give anything they can. So they attract each other to each other so that they can learn different energy dynamics. It's literally like a perfect coupling of learning stuff. The people pleaser has something to learn from the narcissist, just like the narcissist has something to learn from the people pleaser. The narcissist needs to learn empathy, needs to learn how to give and how to be more thoughtful. The people pleaser already has mastered that, but to a level, it's a kind of a shadow. It's almost like without boundaries. The people pleaser needs to learn a little bit from the narcissist about how to go within and how to make yourself happy, how to make it more about you. Because when your cup is full, you can then fill up the cup of other people. Now, both the people pleaser and the narcissist have the same core wound. The core wound is that each feels like they're not worthy and they're both trying to get their needs met. The needs of the narcissist are to try to control situations and to take what they need. The need of the people pleaser is a sense of validation. And the way they go about trying to get that is they try to give to then get. So in a way, here's the cool idea that is like an epiphany for me. The people pleaser is a shadow narcissist. I know that sounds crazy. Here's the difference. The people pleaser says, I want validation, significance, support, and you to love me back. The way I'm going to go about that is I'm going to give to you. I'm going to overexert myself, and I'm going to give you and have no boundaries. And then as I do that, you will then give me that validation, love, and support. Whereas the narcissist is just going to take it. But you see how that's manipulation? That's manipulation. I'm going to give this to you, and then you're going to give this back to me. If I'm nice, if I'm really nice and agreeable, and I pretend to like the shows you want to talk about, and we go down that conversation rabbit hole, and everything is all, and then you're going to love me back. But that's manipulation. Just like the narcissist will take what they want, will emotionally manipulate somebody, will try to move around the energy dynamics to be in their favor. In the same way, that's manipulation as well. They're both forms of manipulation. So basically what I realized this year is that people pleasers are very similar to narcissists. That's why they attract each other. Like attracts like. You look at that, goes like attracts like. That doesn't make sense. They're not that similar. They're opposite. No, they're very similar. They have the same core wound. It's just that the ways they go about getting their needs met is vastly different. The people pleaser is seeking validation and confirmation and connection. The narcissist is seeking control and the same thing, really, that validation and support, but they give it to themselves. They will take it from other people if people won't give it to them. So it's the same thing. The reason I share that with you is because we can start to have a little more compassion for narcissists. Because if you're a people pleaser, you're kind of being a narcissist. You don't even know it. You're just going about it in a different way. And I know that sounds harsh. These labels too kind of, I think, can be a little bit limiting, but I think it can wake people up that are people pleasers and realize, yo, I'm being manipulative as fuck. I'm trying to get from other people. I'm trying to have other people give me validation, love, and support rather than giving it to myself. What is the key for each to heal? Well, to realize that nobody else can give you that validation, love, or support other than yourself. And when you let that go, you can start to feel worthy, whole, and complete just for being you. Then you can start being your most authentic self. Even if people don't like you, you're okay with that because polarizing isn't bad. I'm very polarizing in a lot of my videos. The way I talk, people go, how does Aaron know what he's talking about? How does he talk like that? Like these things are all facts. And people get triggered by that. But this is just me expressing myself. I just do me. And the more I've let go of caring what people think, the more expressive I am, the more authentic I am, and the more people come around, even though I'm a little bit more polarizing. It's okay to be polarizing. Being polarizing is a good thing, okay? Okay, so that was a huge epiphany for me. So also significance. I'll tell you guys from experience. I know this sounds cocky to say, and it's like, oh, he's just trying to flaunt his money or abundance. No, I'm just going to tell you this for just... maybe the old version of me would have said this just so you knew how successful I was. How I have a gold play button that says 1 million subscribers. But here's the truth. I've gone from making $40,000 to $60,000 a year to making way more than that. I've gone from having a 9-to-5 job to working for myself. I've gone from having a very small social media presence, if any, to having a very large social media presence. I can tell you, none of these things equates to happiness. Yes, it is nicer having more freedom. Yes, it is nice to know that there's people that like the content and stuff like that. But when you attain what you thought was going to make you happy for so long and you get it, it can be very deceiving and kind of a letdown. Because you realize that what you really craved the whole time, I was almost ashamed when I received that gold play button because I realized that for 3 years of my life, I craved significance. I craved for people to like me. I craved for, Yes, part of it is it's my passion to share these videos and I want to help people, but I was almost helping people out of the people-pleasing mentality. Like, if I help you, you're going to give me validation, love, support, you're going to share the videos. And what I realized is that the more I realized that what I really love doing is I love expressing myself. And I love making this an end of itself. This podcast episode right now is an end of itself. I'm enjoying the vibration of being in it. I'm enjoying moving my hands around. I'm enjoying expressing myself. But it's not like at the end of this podcast episode, then I'm going to feel fulfilled, 100% whole and complete. I'm already 100% whole and complete, just like you are. You see, it's a different perspective. But realizing that has made me realize why I do what I do. And it's because not of what it'll get me, but it's because this is just who I am. It's an end of itself, not a means to an end. Now, I've always tell people this, and I really believe it to be true. The biggest transformation you make will not be from making $50,000 a year to $100,000 a year to $1 million a year. The biggest transformation you will ever make in your life is when you work a job you hate to working a job you love, or ditching a job you hate to do what you love. If you want to own your own business, be a coach, a healer, whatever that is. That is the biggest transformation you'll ever make. When I bought my time back and I did not have to go into a 9-to-5 job and work 40 hours a week at a job I hated, that was a huge transformation for me. I could literally get up every day and I made three videos a day on YouTube for like a month so I could get ahead on YouTube videos. But I was so passionate about it. I'm like, I can eat lunch when I want. I don't have to ask for a break. I can go do this. I can go do that. And the funny thing is I ended up working way more than I would have any other way, but that was a huge transformation, is when you buy your time back. And for those that don't know, there is something called fulltimepurpose.com. You can go there and it will show you step by step how to go full-time doing what you love. The goal isn't for you to make $1 bajillion a year. The goal is to quit your 9-to-5 job, go full-time, to literally reverse engineer what that would take. And it's much easier than you think. For me, all I needed was 6 coaching clients to go full-time. I waited till I had 6 months in, and I didn't realize that I could have gone full-time after a month if I would have just got 6 coaching clients paying me $200-300 a month and me coaching them to help them get transformational results. That would have covered all my expenses, and I could have quit. But we make it complex in our mind. We think we need a big social media following. We need this, we need that. No, you don't. Go to fulltimepurpose.com. You can check that out. And there's coaching also there showing you step by step how to do so. But anyways, I wanted to mention that because it's so relevant to what we're talking about. But let me talk about this other thing that was a big aspect of 2020 for me. And for me, it was a lot of it was me understanding also attachment and letting go. Attachment and letting go. I did not realize how attached I was to different things in my life. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the attachment theory. For attachment style, we all have a different attachment style. Learning this was pivotal for a year of 2020 for me. There are 3 different attachment styles. Some say there's 4 or 5, but there's a book called Attached, and in it talks about the avoidant attachment style, the anxious attachment style, the secure attachment style. Now, the avoidant attachment style, basically these 3 styles explain just about every relationship you've ever been in, and it explains a lot of the psychology in a powerful way. Attachment of avoidant and anxious tend to attract each other. So the avoidant attachment style, avoidance normally, think about it like this. You got avoidant and anxious. Secure is over here. Secure means you got your shit figured out. You feel comfortable with getting close to people, but also you're not needy. So you're good either way. Normally, your upbringing was very balanced with your mom-dad dynamics, and you were able to give and give and receive love equally and express it, and you weren't shamed for it, or there weren't negative trauma around that. Now, most people, though, have an either anxious or avoidant attachment style. Now, avoidant is where you almost push away the intimacy and love, and anxious is where you try to bring it in. You lean in. So once you lean in, that's anxious. One is you push away, that's avoidant. Now, the root trauma of these is normally the avoidance had somebody they loved or trusted going up, but that trust was broken. And when that trust was broken, they then started to associate getting intimate with pain. And normally, avoidants are single because they like to be single. They don't want to be in a relationship because it feels limiting. And they they have trouble trusting normally, getting too close. And they have different defense mechanisms for that, but that's normally pushing away. Now, anxious, on the other hand, is they crave that love. They crave that support, and they lean in. And it's almost like, in a way, they had that growing up. It's the same core. It's a similar core wound. But instead of losing the trust or breaking the trust, something was taken away from them. And when that was taken away from them, they then became needy. And they're like, if I have this thing, then I'll feel whole and complete. So they lean into it. Now, the problem is that when anxious tries to lean in, normally anxious and avoidance attract each other. When anxiouses are leading in, they're repelling the avoidant. And that energy dynamic then begins to be almost overbearing. And then it repels, and then the avoidant becomes not interested. And on the avoidant side of it, they can become so distant that then the anxious start to realize different things about that. So it's an interesting kind of play, but it's all based on the core wound. I have other podcast episodes on this if you want to know more about this. But basically what I realized is that my attachment was that I was always trying to control the outcome of things. Even the old relationship that I was in for over a year last year with somebody that's still one of my best friends. But I could see how after we broke up, it was very challenging for me to work through that. I didn't really make that public or anything, but it was. For me to move through that, it was like I never really had a deep spiritual connection. And before, my relationship with women was that I had the ex-stepmom that was abusive. I attracted women in my life that were similar to my ex-stepmom that were trying to control me for years. And then I became aware of that pattern, and I broke it because I forgave my ex-stepmom. That broke the pattern. However, I didn't realize that with this pattern of that negative belief, I changed that. But then I went through my spiritual awakening, and it's interesting. I always feel like I've attracted a relationship that was equal to where I was at the time. So when I was working a 9-to-5 job I didn't like, I tended to attract women that were also working 9-to-5 jobs they didn't like. Now I was doing what I love. I attracted a woman that was doing what she loved. And it was the first deep spiritual connection that I ever felt with somebody where we actually got each other at a spiritual level. And we were together for like a year. And we traveled last year, and it was on that traveling, we traveled for 3 months. That's when we broke up, but we still remained great friends, and we had all these travel plans, so we kept the travel plans. But actually, it brought us closer in many ways. But then when we both, after the travel, January of this year, we both went to our other places. She went to LA, I went to Vegas. And at first it was easy. But then there was something about it where I think in my mind, I was thinking, I had this limiting belief that there was no other connection. I then got into scarcity and thought there was no other spiritual connection I was going to find in the world that was that deep of a spiritual connection. And because I was attached to that, it made it very hard to let go. So I remain attached. But then up until about 3 or 4 months ago, I really let go. And when I let go, oh my God, what the game changer for me was I read a book called Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins. And what it talked about how what we do with attachment is we try to bring these things, we try to attach ourselves to these things thinking that it's going to make us happy. And I realized that I was attaching myself to her thinking she was the source of happiness, and that if we had this deep, like as if the only deep spiritual connection I would ever have wasn't with myself, it was with this person. So no wonder it was hard for me to let go, because I literally believed my sense of happiness was based on this person. But what I eventually did is I realized that the real sense of self-happiness was in myself. And what I began to realize is that the more I was trying to control the outcome of this thing, of being this, having this relationship with this person, the more I was trying to control it was the more rigidity I was putting into it. And the more that person was then feeling that, and it was repelling them. That's what I realized. And I realized that by doing that, it's almost like an energetic, it's like if they use this analogy in the book by Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins. If somebody buys a new shirt and they're feeling prideful of the shirt and they're walking around expecting praise on that shirt, they won't get it. It's almost like the other person can feel the resistance and the control, and it resists them or repels them from wanting to give that sense of validation, to say, hey, nice shirt. It's interesting how this energy dynamic goes, but if you insist, you resist. So I was insisting on things going a certain way. I was insisting on having a certain type of friendship and all this stuff. And or relationship in general. And that insistence that person was then feeling, and it was literally blocking them from wanting to give it. Because then what I realized is that's a form of manipulation and control. And by trying to manipulate and control, I'm denying them to actually make the choice. That was the epiphany. And when I stopped trying to control, oh my God, I let go of the control. I felt so free. I realized that my own sense of happiness was the most important thing. At this level of awareness, I started to feel more confident about myself. I got into fitness more. I started focusing more on my own sense of self-love. And the more I have let go of trying to control outcomes of my life, the more magical my life has become. Whether it's control some business thing that I'm doing, whether it's control some type of relationship, anything I'm trying to control, I'm putting resistance into, and I'm trying to manipulate the universe. It's like me going to the universe's neck and trying to control it, saying, give me what I want, give me what I want. Instead of allowing the magic to happen. When I realized this, I started to have more unconditional love, even from my ex. Realizing that maybe we're not meant to be together, but having that unconditional love for them and really letting them go has been key to my own happiness and my own sense of self-confidence. That has put me on my own warrior's initiation, where I realize that's part of what becoming a man is, or becoming a woman is I think realizing different aspects about yourself. I also have a coach now that's kind of like a masculine Carl Jung integration coach. And that's a big part of my process. Is my ex was a very important part of me going to this next level of realizing my own worth and also being in my own frame. That was another thing I realized. So holding my own frame. Because this year has been a huge transformation year and a transition year from me going from doing YouTube videos for years to me going into a different aspect of my life where my intention is to do events and do this other stuff. What I realized as well is for a long time, I always wanted to be like Tony Robbins. And the challenge I had was I didn't realize how much my ego wanted to be Tony Robbins and like Tony Robbins. And I realized that that was like an ego desire, an ego drive. And I went through months where I was like, I'm not going to speak. I need to not be in the limelight as much. I need to I felt so guilty for feeling so craving significance for so long that I repelled that. But I had I did plant medicine at the end, at the end of this year in November. And I realized that actually, I actually sat down with my buddy Victor, and he told me, I just had these realizations and synchronicities that I am meant to be speaking. I am meant to be doing these things that I kind of resented in myself because I was so driven by the ego. But I realized that that's not the answer. The answer is not that I don't not do it. It's just that I do it with the awareness that I'm not trying to build some false sense of ego that's going to get all this validation. So it's not what I do that needs to change, but it's how I do it and why I do it. And I realized that my passion really is speaking. My passion is doing live events. When I did this retreat, Victor and I did this retreat with plant medicine in Costa Rica, and I gave 1 or 2 talks, and I was in such a channeled state, and there's something that just comes through, and I realized speaking is my thing. And a couple people afterwards were like, man, you're an amazing speaker. You're an amazing speaker. And I'm getting this reflection back, and that's my gift. That's what I'm meant to be doing, is speaking. I'm not necessarily a coach. My passion is not coaching people. My buddy Victor is a coach. He's an amazing coach. He knows that. He accepts that. My passion is not coaching people one-on-one. My passion is teaching and speaking at a more of a scale. But it's me realizing that I'm not doing it to be like Tony Robbins. I don't want to be Tony Robbins. I want to be me. But I don't want to do it because it's my passion. It's an end of itself, not because of what it'll get me or some validation or support that it'll get me. But also I've realized because I'm in this transition, I had this kind of shadow aspect of myself that was falling into other people's frame. I was falling into other people. For example, one of my best friends is also Drew Canoli. Many of you guys know him. He's an amazing, amazing person. He's like a mentor and he's a best friend. It's really cool mix of this person in my life. Now, when we've only known each other in this life. We definitely have a soul brother connection. But at the beginning of this year, we met. I went to San Diego, met him. We instantly connected. Then we started seeing each other a lot. I would travel to see him. We'd go to Sedona, went to San Diego. We'd go to these places. And we decided, let's move to Sedona and let's get a house together. And I'm in this amazing house right now. And it's phenomenal. But what I realized was that one of the reasons I think I jump into certain situations with other people is because it was almost like I had a lack of my own frame. not knowing that deep down, what I really need is I'm getting ready to grow and, exponentialize my business, and I need to be laser focused. I need my own space. So one thing that I've realized is that I fall into other people's frames sometimes because I have a lack of my own frame. And it's because I'm in this transition also of doing what going into this new area of my business and stuff. But realizing this has been pivotal for me. And I had to talk with Drew a couple weeks ago, and I realized, I need to get, and I know Drew as well. Drew and I both both have big energy. So for us to both be in the same house, it's an interesting dynamic because we both are so much in our own frame. I have like my own routine. He has his own routines. And what we realized though, is that it's more beneficial. I realize that, at least for myself, I need my own space. So what I'm going to be doing is getting a new place here in Sedona and having my own frame instead of falling into the power of someone else's frame. I think that because I had maybe the ex-stepmom situation growing up, I was always kind of in someone else's frame in a way. I felt safe. And maybe moving into a house with one of my best friends was safe. But what we realized is that, and I'm going to be right down the street from him. I'm still going to be able to hang out all the time, which is great. So it's an exciting time, but I realize this in many different levels. But what I'm realizing is as I establish my own frame of me speaking or doing whatever, I'm like growing this new company and stuff, this new thing that I'm doing, I need to be in that, growing that team, focused on that. And that is my frame. And that it's okay. Because of my lack of frame prior, I was falling into other people's frame. So this year moving forward, I think is a year of really also a lot of childhood trauma stuff that's come up this year, healing my beliefs about women. I thought I already healed that, but I realized that narcissist that was brought into my life at the beginning of the year with this whole threatening thing was also a woman. Is that interesting? It's always a woman. But I realized I had to change my beliefs about women, change my beliefs about relationships. I had to let go of the belief that somebody else was going to make me happy. And as I let go of all these things, I became more free than ever. Moving into 2021, what I believe is going to happen is more and more of the shadow is going to come up. More and more of the collective shadow is going to come up. And I think that now is more powerful time than ever to be doing this kind of shadow work, to be integrating the shadow, becoming aware of our own shadow, and looking at these aspects of ourselves that maybe we haven't looked at before. So with that being said, what has been your biggest lesson of 2020? Can you comment below? Let me know. If you guys don't know, there is a YouTube channel. I'm going to be putting this on. Let me know as well. Would you like these videos on my main YouTube channel? I did that recently, and the video did really well, and a lot of people had really positive feedback. But would you like me to post these longer form videos on my main YouTube channel? And then also, if you don't know, if you're listening to this on the YouTube channel, you go to the podcast, Aaron Doughty Podcast on Spotify and iTunes, and are very easy to download and listen to. And every Tuesday, Friday, there's new episodes. And maybe I'll post them on the YouTube channel. Let me know. Comment below. Subscribe if you haven't already. I've been doing more videos like this, more long-form content like this, more short-form content like this. Other than that, I want you guys to know for all of 2020, I'm appreciative of you. I love you guys. And as always, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace, much love, and namaste.